We're live.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. ربي أني مسني الضر وأنت أرحم الراحمين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وارنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وارنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. اللهم نور قلوبنا بنور العظيم. وصل اللهم على محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه وسلم. ربنا اغفر لنا وارحمنا وأنت خير الراحمين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Today, inshallah, we will be continuing our discussion of the 8th word. As a reminder, today's class will be an hour long, so inshallah we'll try to wrap it up around 12:30. So let's begin, inshallah, and I look forward to thinking about this and discussing this text together with everyone. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I want to begin. We read some of this paragraph towards the end of class last week. I want to reread it and discuss it a bit more in depth. Where we left off, the story had just ended of two brothers, a fortunate brother and an unfortunate brother, both who made certain choices that led them to undergo different experiences within the same circumstances, right? They were chased by a lion, fell into a well. They saw two roots out of that wall of the well, two rats that were gnawing on that, one white and black, and below them was a dragon. And on top of all this, the walls of this well were poisonous. There was a fig tree at the mouth of the well with fruits. And, these are all details of the story, and we can see how the author explains it. But fundamentally, the two brothers had a very different experience. One of them felt terror and insecurity throughout the entire journey, and the other, because he chose a path in which there was no ruler, no order, while the other one chose a path of security, and one in which he specifically said that I place my trust in God, which is a verse from the Quran, chapter 11:56. And I think this verse especially, I think, will be important as we try to understand the two very different experiences that these brothers had, because these are also experiences that we have. We have both. We have the potential to experience what the fortunate brother experiences, and we have the potential to experience what the unfortunate brother experiences. And these are all up to the choices that we make when we are faced with different situations and circumstances. So let me begin reading this first paragraph after the end of the story, and we can try to make sense of what the author tells us about the mindset and worldview and experiences that these two brothers have. So it begins. O my soul, and you who is listening to this story together with my soul, if you do not want to be the unfortunate brother and want to be the fortunate one, listen to the Quran obey its decrees, adhere to them, and act according to them. Look, the unhappy traveler on the left road is all the time trembling. One second. Right, look, the unhappy traveler on the left road is all the time trembling with fear, waiting to enter the dragon's mouth, while the fortunate one is invited into a blooming, splendid garden full of fruit, and the unfortunate one's heart is being pounded by an awful terror and grievous fear, while the fortunate one is gazing at and observing strange things as a delightful lesson, with a pleasant fear and loving knowledge. So let me pause right here first, and I think since this is a long paragraph, I want to share some thoughts as we go through it, and I welcome your thoughts as well. I don't want us to get lost within just this wall of text. So here, first of all, it begins with an addressal to our own soul, right? To our own, we can say nafs, or the side of us that desires things, but to us as we experience things. And it says that the unhappy traveler, right, the unhappy brother who chose the left road, the entire time is trembling with fear, as though waiting to enter the dragon's mouth. And when I think about this, if I think about a road as my own life, as my own world, there can certainly be times in which I live in a state of fear and despair, as if at any moment I will be entering the mouth of a dragon. And what is the mouth of a dragon? What does that represent really? I mean, if we understand that metaphorically, it's a pit of terror. At every turn, every next day, I can live in a state of anxiety, in a state of fear and depression and despair. And part of why this happens, at least in this brother's case of the story, is that it's a direct consequence of the choice he made. He refused a road of order, right? His refusal to see meaning in the world ends up dictating the world that is created for him. It becomes this sort of hellish world, a world in which at any moment you can be swallowed by a dragon. At any moment, the despairs, the fears that you have can kind of swallow you up. That's how I'm trying to understand it. And it says, while the fortunate one is invited into a blooming, splendid garden full of fruit. And if we remember at the very beginning that this fortunate brother is operating within a worldview in which a creator is there and takes care of him. He's living with the verse of, I place my trust in God. And I think this is a verse that a lot of people are familiar with, right? Tawakkaltu on Allah. What is tawakkul? What is trust in God? But he's living with this. And I think this is really fundamental. He's living with the belief, with the conviction that there is nothing, there is no cause, there is no entity, no dragon, nothing but his creator who is guiding him, who is taking care of him, who is creating all of the events and experiences that he undergoes. While the unfortunate one, brother, is on the path that he is because of his choice to live a life in which there is no creator, no sustainer, no disposer of, all affairs. And I guess one other thing that I want to highlight within this first sentence is that while this left road ends up for the unfortunate traveler being the sort of hellish experience as we sometimes may experience in our own life, because I don't think we simply make a choice of being the fortunate brother and the unfortunate brother. We can experience both in our life, and in states in which we are conscious and aware and realize that we are created and must have a creator, and that creator is guiding us, then there's a state of contentment. But it's like a swing, it's a pendulum. It's something that we must continuously reflect upon to stay conscious of. It's not a one-time choice. And so there can also be, just even speaking from my experience, there can also be times in which I am forgetful of that, in which I am not conscious of that, and I take the experiences that I undergo at face value and say, why is this happening to me? Why is everything so terrible? And again, I feel as if at any moment I may be swallowed up by the situation, by the dragon. But the other one is in a state of contentment. And in fact, he's being invited. I thought that was interesting. He is invited into a blooming, splendid garden full of fruit. So it's not necessarily, yes, he's made a choice, but the experience, the contentment that he's experiencing is also kind of given to him. It's not his own doing, but due to the choices he makes, due to the trust he puts in his maker, he is invited into this state of happiness, this heavenly state of living. So I'm going to continue, but again, these are just comments I'm making as I try to understand this. Feel free to intervene. And the unfortunate one's heart is being pounded by an awful terror and grievous fear, while the fortunate one is gazing at and observing strange things as a delightful lesson, with a pleasant fear and loving knowledge. Again, how many of us have not experienced our hearts being pounded by fear, or by anxiety, or by discontentment, something that makes us unhappy, something that fills us with displeasure? I think this is a very human experience. Yet the fortunate one is also may undergo the same things, but looks at them with a sort of pleasant fear, observing them with a certain curiosity, as if, okay, this is happening to me. I may not like it. I may not enjoy, my humanness may not enjoy what is happening, but this is not by coincidence. These are not accidents that are happening to me. There is, again, order. There is meaning. There is purpose behind everything that I am experiencing. So again, these are descriptions, I feel. These are descriptions of two psychological states of being. Two states of being for a human being. And I'm able to undergo both at various times in my life. But my choice in how to undergo it really dictates my overall experience within it. Also, the miserable one is suffering torments in desolation, despair, and loneliness, while the fortunate one is enjoying himself full of hope, longing, and a sense of belonging. I mean, how many of us would prefer to be that fortunate one, right? But maybe more often than not, we suffer torments, we feel lonely, we feel despair, we feel hopeless perhaps, and this causes us directly misery. These feelings show to us that something is not right. This is not the state I want to be. This is not what my human expectations are happy with. Whereas it's also possible, as the author explains, to be in a state in which, again, my human expectations may not be necessarily met at the moment, but I am hopeful. I have a certain longing. I can ask for them and say, I am not happy with this right now. I understand this is being given. Please, can this be changed by the one who is creating them? By realizing that there's a source of existence behind everything that's happening. Again, I'll continue, but just feel free to, if you want to add anything, if anything resonates with you, if you have a question, please go for it. especially because our time is shorter. I don't want to, fill this up just with my voice, but I'll continue because as I reflect. Furthermore, again, there's a series of feelings here that are being discussed, a series of experiences that are being discussed given a set of circumstances. So it says, furthermore, the unfortunate one sees himself as a prisoner, subject to the attacks of wild beasts, while the fortunate one is an honored guest who is on friendly terms and enjoying himself with the strange servants of his generous host. So, I mean, I think this is just a very direct explanation, direct connection to our existence in this world. I find myself existing in this world. I can see this existence as a sort of imprisonment, and there are certainly those who do. From the moment that from our moments as babies to now, it's as though one can say, oh, we're prisoners in this existence. There's no way out, and I'm being constantly attacked by these various situations that overwhelm me, wild beasts. But if I am conscious of the fact that none of this is being brought about by chance, my birth was not a chance, my existence can't be by chance, that I must by necessarily have a creator that's not the source, that is the source of my existence, that is not of the nature of this world, that can't be, then I can also realize that, okay, my existence was purposefully given. That means that I'm a guest in this world rather than a prisoner. And these are not perhaps easy jumps to make. I mean, they require deliberation and reflection. But again, they're two ends of a spectrum, I guess. They're two ways in which we can approach our existence. And one of them will bring contentment to our humanness, to our human feelings, and the other one will completely plunge us into despair. That's the matter of the fact. So one of them, if I recognize that I have a creator, if I recognize that this entire existence must necessarily have a creator who is sustaining it, who is involved with it, who is creating everything as I speak, then I realize that I have a host, that this world is like a guest house, that people are departing from it every single day, right? I experience death all the time, even if I just simply hear about it. We all hear about death, and all of us, I'm certain, know that we're going to die. That death is a certainty, regardless of how much we like to think about it. So the nature of this world is very clear. It shows itself very clearly. And when I recognize that this world must have a creator, that there is a host, and that I am a guest, then everything else that's created, that's out of my control, right? We like to have things in our control. We like to think that we can control things, but whether it's physical animals, if you'd like to say, but again, I think here it's metaphorical, wild beasts, as in the situations that we experience, the relationships that I have, how they progress, tomorrow's events, what I may come to face later today. All of these things I can either see as wild and unpredictable and just a matter of coincidence and chance, or I can see them as carefully prepared experiences for me. And every I guess creature out there that I may not be familiar with as strange servants, because they all are under the ownership, under the creatorship, under the dominicality of a single source. And it adds, also the unhappy one is hastening his torments by indulging in fruits which are apparently delicious, but in fact poisonous. For the fruits are samples. There is permission to taste them so as to seek the originals and become customers for them, but there is no permission to devour them like an animal. So, as I find myself existing in this world, I see that there is food for me, right? You know, there are apples and oranges and carrots and potatoes and, you know, just this endless variety, just pumpkins, endless variety. And I have two choices again that are given to me, right? I can either just dig in, I can eat my apple, I can eat my cereal in the morning, I can eat pumpkin pie at night without thinking about it and just try to satisfy that hunger, that desire I have. Even after my hunger is gone, I want dessert, right? I want something more sweet. And I can just, without thinking, without reflecting on it, just eat it and try to satisfy myself. But then what really happens in the end is I just kind of have a belly ache and sometimes self-loathing if I have an unhealthy relationship with food. And I fundamentally ignore my humanness in the process of all of this, right? Because my humanness dictates that I think about things. I have the ability to think, I have the ability to reflect, I have the ability to question and form a relationship with these foods, with these fruits, with these things that somehow provide me sustenance in the world. Like, how come they provide me sustenance? Why is it that they have such a perfect relationship with my body, with my physical body? I have the ability to question this, but if I don't, then I act like this, then a sort of animal that doesn't think, that just acts to fulfill its physicalness. But I'm not that. I'm not an animal. I'm a human being, and I have all these human qualities. And so if I think about it, if I reflect on it, as it says, but the fortunate one tastes and understands the matter, he postpones eating them and takes pleasure in waiting. You know, what I understand from this is that if I reflect on it, I can see that the food serves a purpose beyond its taste. That it is there as an educational tool. And either I can see it like that, as a pedagogical tool, as a signpost, or just devour it without thought and reflection. And again, this choice is given to me. My humanist requires me to ask, from where is this fruit coming? From where is this sustenance delivered? Is this fruit given to me so that, yes, I can take it as a sample, but see that its larger purpose is to connect me with its source of existence, with the one that is creating it, with the one that is delivering it to me. And I just wanted to add something. I realized I wanted to add something a little earlier. One or two sentences above, it said, I think it was the second sentence, it said, and the unfortunate one's heart is being pounded by an awful terror and grievous lesson, while the fortunate one is gazing at and observing strange things as a delightful lesson. This word here also kind of captured my attention, delightful lesson. And this tells me that one perspective, one mindset I can have, as represented here by the brother who places his trust in God, is that the experiences I undergo in my life, that the relationships I have, that my frustrations with my school, with my work, with my husband, with my wife, with my children, with my coworkers, with anyone, because I think almost all frustrations and difficulties are usually within our relationships, regardless of whether that's a formal or informal relationship. Maybe financially, my experiences, or otherwise, maybe in terms of health, I'm undergoing things. That one of the mindsets here that's presented is that the fortunate one is gazing at things, observing strange things, situations, experiences, feelings, as a delightful lesson. And I thought to that's a very interesting word choice, a delightful lesson. That the experiences I undergo in this life are part of my, if you would like to call it, part of my syllabus, right? And what's a syllabus? A teacher, a professor gives you a sheet in the beginning of class every semester, and the sheet gives you a schedule of every text that you'll be reading, all the homeworks that will be due, and all the readings you'll have to do. It gives you a roadmap, and it shows you this is the educational pathway that you will be taking, that you will be undergoing. This is the experience that you will happen, that will educate you, that will offer you something, that will lead you to progress. And so if I see my life as a syllabus, that I'm in a realm of education, that there is a lesson plan that my life is following, that there is a teacher that is guiding me, and that I haven't just been thrown into an examination room with no help or guidance. No, it's not that someone says, okay, here's a test. You have to take it by yourself. Good luck. Bye. No, it's at every moment there's an instructor helping me, that I'm never left without guidance at any moment, that everything that which I'm learning is all meaningful, that nothing about my experience is devoid of meaning. And being able to see things as delightful lessons. I mean, I think this is easier said than done. I'm speaking for myself. I definitely don't see everything in my life as a delightful lesson. Maybe I see it as an atrocious lesson. But I know that I can conclude that my creator is an all-wise one, that my creator is an all-knowledgeable one, that most importantly, perhaps for me, that my creator is an all-merciful one, and that from every single breath I take to the sustenance that I receive from these fruits and vegetables and whatever else, that there is compassion and mercy in everything that I'm experiencing it, if I choose to be a conscious recipient. Because I can receive things without really reflecting on them. But if I am a conscious recipient, people nowadays keep gratitude journals. And once you start, you see, there's a lot of things that I can be grateful for, that I can, not that I should be, but that, yes, this is compassion, that this is mercy. What I am experiencing is, in essence, mercy. And then I guess the lesson can turn into something delightful, that I can take my frustrations, I can take my sadness and say, okay, the sadness is not just here to bring me sadness, that it's not just here to make me sad or bring me despair, that there is some meaning in it, that it is also a signpost, that it is also leading me to form this very deep, dynamic, meaningful conversation and connection with my creator. And I think, again, that's, for me, that's what trust in God means, that it means that I'm in this dynamic conversation and relationship in which I am being educated, and I am being an active recipient of everything that he has given me, so that I may come to know him better, and seeing things through that lens. So I wanted to add that, because I thought it was a important word there, and not just go through it. So we have one comment by a brother who says, can we say that unless the host comes and tells that we are guests, we cannot know that we are actually guests? Things seem meaningful, but by ourselves, we cannot know what they mean. If you'd like to elaborate on that, you can feel free to open your mic. If not, I mean, yeah, we can reflect. So unless the host comes and tells that we are guests, we cannot know that we are actually guests. I think that we can see signposts and indications of it, but that we also require a sort of communication from our creator that gives us guidance. And that may be a different topic, I'm not sure, but yeah, thank you for the comment. I see that Farah has her hand up, so please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Aishanur, for this session. So this thought is a little fresh in my head, but very much sort of reminded by your emphasis on the part that's highlighted. And I was thinking today how, many of us are students or have been students. And in order to really know something, to we in order for something to be to really know something, we have to have sort of come from a point of accepting or admitting or acknowledging that we don't know what something is, and that prompts us to actually study it, and study it with this sense of, you know, a blank slate of saying, of coming from a absolute sort of ground zero of curiosity. And I find that at least I definitely take that as a big granted part of my life, where I will not even, or I will often, if not always, forget to even just take a moment and say, okay, what do I really know about this moment, that I can say is the truth about it, or that I can feel certain about it? Like, what are the qualities of this moment? What am I observing in this moment that I can say, I know for certain that I am experiencing it, or I know this? And it's, you know, it seems too, perhaps for some, too detailed, but at the same time, a very honest assessment that that there is a lot of, I guess, observation, as this, you know, word sort of reminds me, and a lot of sort of concentration, that allows us to then sort of see whatever that we're observing as those qualities, and then, you know, going on to the further steps of saying, okay, what do these qualities represent, where are they coming from, what do they mean, etc., etc. But in this sort of, you know, as I said, like a fresh, or a thought that I'm reminded of today is, you know, this concept that it is with this sense of deeply observing something that I will observe qualities about that moment or about that thing, that I can go on to further investigate, to know what they mean and where they're coming from.
Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us. Yeah, that was really beautiful. I guess one thing that I'm thinking about as you said that is, you know, how much do I even pause and just kind of approach things with a sort of fresh curiosity or desire to know. Um, and this also, your comment also made me think about how, you know, my lacking, really just my lacking in knowledge sometimes, in showcases to me, and I, you know, whenever I talk, I feel like I always mention this, but for me, it's just really true, is that it really showcases to me my vulnerability as a human being, as a human being, my neediness, um, and this especially arises within situations of hardship, or situations in which um, I cannot grasp perhaps that which I ask for, um, because hardship sort of breaks through any illusions I have of self-sustenance, uh, and it sort of gently, or sometimes forcefully, guides me towards the one in which I can seek sort of absolute security. You know, just kind of realizing my impotence as a human being, but within that impotence, finding a very sweet contentment, because I know that all along, I you know, the only one who can meet my human needs is my creator, is the one that has given them to me in the first place. Um, thank you. If anyone else wants to share anything further, please feel free to. Um, I'll give it a moment. When we have a multitude of voices, it definitely becomes more colorful. Okay. So let me continue with this paragraph. And again, just raise your hand if you'd like to add your thoughts into the discussion. So this paragraph kind of ends by the author saying, moreover, the unfortunate one is wronging himself. Through his lack of discernment, he is making a truth and a situation which are as clear and bright as daylight into a dark and oppressive fear, into a hellish delusion. So I guess here it's very explicit that given the choices I make about how I want to view things, whether I want to accept that whether I want to accept my createdness, whether I want to accept the createdness of everything else within this world, which, you know, if I utilize my human qualities, which can be very clear, you know, that I can see signs that everything is being created constantly. But if I refuse that, and part of that I think is part of stubbornness, perhaps stubbornness in the human desire to not want to give up a sort of self-ownership. You know, I want to remain in control, whatever that means. Even if it's a false sense of control, even if it's a sense of control that ultimately doesn't bring me about any sort of satisfaction or fulfillment, really. But through that choice of belief, through that choice of conviction, I can turn everything into a dark and oppressive fear, into a hellish delusion. And I said here he's explicit because I think that's what hell is, right? Someone has to open the doors of hell for themselves. Someone has to really want to jump into hell because we create our own hellish situations. We don't really need to wait to die to experience hell. You know, hell is a state of being, I think. And so this goes, I think, for heaven as well. We taste them here and now, in our situations here and now. If I seek refuge, if I place my trust in God, if I see everything as a ground for which I'm being educated, in which I'm being developed, in which I am constantly being guided. And I think that's so important because loneliness is so prevalent, right? Feeling lonely, feeling lost, feeling like there's no one that understands us or no one that that experiences whatever we undergo. And this loneliness can be when you're physically lonely or by yourself, or it can be within a group of people, within your family as well. But that loneliness is kind of dissolved when I seek refuge in my Creator, when I try, and I think I need to exert effort here. I need to exert effort in putting my humanness to use. When I think, when I reflect, when I also seek and ask for it, because asking, I think, is so important. That I realize that I can't produce anything, that I can't really change anything, but I ask for it. That I ask for it from the one who can. And that gives me, even the process of asking, even the process of making a prayer is itself relief, is itself a means of connection, because it's a recognition that there is one who can provide absolute security and absolute compassion and absolute refuge. So here he's saying through his lack of discernment, and I'm not exactly sure how to make use of the word discernment here, but definitely through his own choices, through one's own choices, through the choices that you and I make, we can take a situation that is very merciful, very beautiful, a delightful lesson, if you will, and say that it is a form of oppression. Say that it is just that the only response to it is despair, which feeds into more despair, which is just living in hell, whereas heaven, as we saw, or living in a heavenly state of being, is being invited into it. It's, again, not a result of our own efforts or actions, but we can make certain choices, and we are invited through those choices, through the order of creation, into a state of being that is heavenly, into a state of being that is very secure and full of contentment. So it says he does not deserve pity, nor does he have the right to complain to anyone, because he opened the doors of hell himself. I open the doors of hell to myself when I forget that I'm being created, that I'm being sustained, that I have a guide. I do it to myself, right? It's not, it's not that as if like God's creating unhappy situations for me. No. If I don't recognize him, if I don't act in a state in which I am conscious of my source of existence, then that lack of connection is itself hell. I deprive myself of his mercy and compassion, and choose to see situations in which there is no order and I'm just subject to it all. So let me pause here again for any other comments or thoughts. Okay. And now the author is going to give us an example, right? It says, for example, if a person at a pleasant banquet in a beautiful garden in summer among his friends makes himself drunk through filthy intoxicants, then imagines himself hungry and naked in the middle of winter among wild animals, and starts shouting and crying, he does not deserve to be pitied. He is wronging himself, and he is insulting his friends by imagining them to be wild beasts. So we have this example here, and this example is supposed to exemplify the case of the unfortunate brother, but I can also see for myself. I live in this world, and I can choose to see the beauties in it, and see that it is really a beautiful garden. And it says among his friends. Yeah, I have friends here. I have family here, and I have people that I love and care about and that I want to surround myself with. I enjoy being with them, right? I enjoy having conversations with them. I enjoy spending time with them. So this example is really just giving an example of our lives, I think. And it says that if this person makes himself drunk through filthy intoxicants, and then thinks that he's hungry and naked, and that it's actually winter even though it's summer, and that things around him, like as though they are wild, and outside any order start shouting and crying, then this is his fault, is what the author is saying, because this is a experience or way of experiencing that he's choosing upon himself. He's responsible for it. It does not match the reality of the situation, but he's kind of distorting the reality through the choices he makes, through the way he chooses to look at the world. He does not deserve to be pitied. He is wronging himself, and he is insulting his friends by imagining them to be wild beasts. But it certainly doesn't feel that way, right? I mean, when I'm crying and when I'm shouting and when I'm unhappy, I see myself as the victim. I think, yeah, I do deserve pity. I don't like to take responsibility upon the situation for myself. And I think, there's a difference between victimizing myself or saying, okay, this is a situation that I'm not happy with, that's not pleasant, and seeking refuge in the one who can provide for me. But here it says he's insulting his friends by imagining them to be wild beasts. Thus, the unfortunate brother is like this. Now, that's, again, I think one way of looking, one worldview, one mindset. But the fortunate one sees the truth, and the truth is good. The truth is good. Reality, right? Through perceiving the beauty of the truth, the fortunate brother is being respectful towards the truth's owner, towards the source of that truth, towards the creator of that truth, So he deserves his mercy. So I can also, if I choose to be like the fortunate brother, and again, this choice is always presented to us, I think. I don't think, of course I'd like to say, well, thank God, I believe in God, and therefore I am like the fortunate brother, and, I got it all down. No, I think, even if one believes that they are created and one believes um, that there is a creator, that these choices are always being presented to us constantly, dynamically, as long as we live, continuously. I can choose A or B, A or B, A or B, and it's a series, and I can confirm and affirm the truth, or I can deny it. And this affirmation and denial is ongoing. It's not a one-time thing. Right? Belief is dynamic. It must be renewed. It must be confirmed over and over again, because nothing in life is static. From one moment to the next moment, everything changes. And so one other way of going about this is that one can see the situation as it really is, and as it really is that it's merciful, it's good, and that goodness is being given. It's not, the source of its own existence either. Recognizing that is truly important. It's not just an abstract truth by itself. No, it has an owner. And so it says, thus the meaning of the Quranic decree: know that evil is from yourself and good is from God. And this is from chapter 4, verse 79. And I think like earlier on, we also in this chapter we saw the divine hadith was mentioned, hadith Qudsi of I am as my servant sees me, right? That our creator is as we see him. We have the choice to we have the choice of how we choose to see reality. We can either see it as it is, or we can cover it up and choose to see it in a way that misrepresents it. And this in turn affects the way in which we see its creator. But this verse is really interesting. Know that evil is from yourself and good is from God. Does anyone have any thoughts on this? I've been making comments all along, but I'm in need of help as well in trying to understand this, and I think my understanding will be enriched with your understandings. So how can given all of this, given our discussion so far, how do we make sense of the meaning of know that evil is from yourself and good is from God? Any thoughts on this? And it may not be easy, but yeah, do we have someone there?
Hey, Salam to Sulu. Yeah, I just wanted to say that comment doesn't make a lot of sense to me. That evil is from yourself and good is from God. I don't really understand it, because I mean, if all our options are given to us by the Creator, then evil is from the Creator as well. No, the other way to look at it as well is that I know we've spoken about in this class before that the concept of evil doesn't really exist, and it's more about the choices we make. For instance, like you can use a knife to cut bread, but then if you use a knife to kill someone, that was really about the action that you used the knife for. But to go back to the beginning, isn't that good is from God and evil is from yourself? That doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. Thanks.
Thank you, Tolu, for asking that. Would anyone like to respond to that? I think this is a genuine, concern, and it'll help us understand this verse. This is a verse that we can see as guidance from our Creator. So how does it help us here and now? How does it speak to us as human beings? Any thoughts? Okay, we have a friend here who wants to speak. Please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. I think it's a great question that's been brought up now, and it got me thinking. Is the existence of free will, or is the ability to choose one way over another evil in and of itself? So with the knife example, if I choose to cut butter versus choosing to murder someone, is the existence of that choice evil? I'm not saying choosing one way or the other, but I'm just saying, is having the choice itself evil? And my inclination is to say no, because I guess what this verse is, at least from what I gather from this verse, is that, everything within my own disposition, and even the way in which the order in the universe is established pushes me towards, like the brother who questions and says there must necessarily be a conscious choice, a conscious will behind all of these beings. I look at the universe and I can come to the same necessary conclusion that there must be a conscious orderer behind the order. So, and in addition to that, within the way that I am created, or within the way that I find myself existing, I have this inclination to ask these questions. Is there an order? What is the purpose? What is the meaning? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't feel right for things just to exist and then go into non-existence. What does it all look to? Why am I here? All of these questions, my existence in and of itself, and the feelings and the thoughts that I have within myself, all push me towards a certain sort of path. So when I ignore those questions within myself, and I adopt a pre-imposed sort of a conclusion saying that, there is no meaning, or that things are just here and I just find myself here, but it doesn't mean anything. If I come to this sort of end point without any proof for myself, then I am therefore imposing a sort of evil on myself. But everything within my nature and everything within the universe looks to the true reality of the meaningful aspect, if you will, or the meaning in existence. So just because I have the ability to say things are meaningless does not, for one thing, it doesn't devoid reality of meaning, but at the same time, it allows me to come to the conclusion that there must be a conscious will behind the way the universe exists. So the ability to choose itself is beautiful to me, so long as I utilize it in the correct way. And even if I utilize it improperly and I say no, like things are just here and I'm going into non-existence, if I just, or like, I don't need to even verbally say this, but if I act in such a way where my life is dictated by this point of view, I'm already, as was said before, I'm already in a hellish state of being, and it just feels so uncomfortable and I feel miserable. So I need to become aware, or I need to question where are these feelings coming from? Why is it that I feel this way? Why am I created in such a way? And so just to wrap it up and just connect it back to the original verse we were looking at here, know that evil is from yourself and good is from your God, is from God, is that I impose that evil perspective, or that morphed reality, or the lens, like morphed lenses through which I can view my own reality using my free will. But that doesn't make my ability to choose in and of itself evil. And when I do, choose to see the meaningful aspect of things, that is directly from God, because everything is already a signpost looking to it. All I need to do is just go with the flow, if you will. Thank you.
Thank you. I see that we also have a hand up. Juan and Shahira, you would like to.
Assalamu alaikum. Aisha, thank you so much for your beautiful lesson. I really enjoyed listening to it. So I have 2 points that I wanted to share, and I think it's kind of a continuation of Hatice's thoughts. So firstly, I am reminded of that hadith that was mentioned earlier in the text. It's a hadith Qudsi. I am as you think of me. So, whatever we think of our creator, it has to be positive, and that, creates a positive outcome for us, inshallah. And my second point is that in the previous classes, we learned about how evil is a result of our relationship with things, with the world around us. And I just want to share something like a practical example. So if I had a misunderstanding with a friend, let's say she had made an assumption about what I said instead of clarifying it with me, then she kind of brought that on herself, because if she had asked me what I meant when I said something or when I did something, then it gives me an opportunity to explain, oh no, that's not what I meant. And so instead, she was sitting with her own thoughts, with her own negative thoughts. And I think that's something I am also susceptible to, that I do that myself as well sometimes. So, we jump to conclusions, and it's a kind of evil that we bring into our own lives. So that's my interpretation of this verse, that evil is from yourself and the good is from God. I think how we interpret things and how we create meaning out of situations can either be positive or negative, helpful or unhelpful. Thank you so much, Aisha.
Thank you for that comment, Shahira. Thank you so much. Since we're filling up our time, let me finish by just reading the final sentence. And I think this final sentence may also help us in trying to understand this verse. It says, if you make a comparison of other differences in the same way, you will understand that the evil commanding soul of the first brother has prepared a sort of hell for him, while the good intention, good will, good character, and good thoughts of the other have allowed him to receive abundant bounty, experience true happiness and prosperity, and display shining virtue. As a final comment, I just want to say that what is our criteria for evaluating an experience, right? And I think an existence-focused approach is necessary in evaluating any experience. That the existence of any experience must be evaluated in terms of a person's existential purpose. And if that existential purpose is to come to know one's own existence and reality, then all experiences have to be looked at within that context. I think there's I mean, this is a huge discussion. I apologize for talking more than I should have, and I thank you for your patience in that. If you'd like, we can continue from this topic from the sentence onwards next week, inshallah. But since we had decided to keep it at an hour, I want to I want to stick to that decision. So thank you, everyone. Jazakumullah khair. And thank you for participating and for listening. Alhamdulillah. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. وآخر